All right, so welcome to, this is one of our first podcasts we've ever shot. Basically the mission of this is what we're trying to do is, I've only been in business for a couple of years. I've had a successful business now for a couple of years. And I started basketball academy before that didn't necessarily go the way I wanted it to. But now I want to go and help other business owners and other people achieve their goals, their dreams, and follow their passion. And so I'm just trying to find out what makes other people successful and how they've been able to start a business successfully, how they've been able to follow their goals. My whole life I wanted to follow my dreams, whatever that's been. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to go for it all, and want to find out what makes the people that do that different, or why they've done that, or how we can help other people that might be thinking about that they want to go and do it, and what stopped them. So we want people to take action. If you have a dream and you have a goal and you think you can have a better life, we want to find out how we can do that, and what it takes for a small business owner compared to going and working for another company, and should you go and take that leap. So you were saying you've been doing this for 20 years now.
Yes, I started hair school in 1998.
1998.
Yeah, it seems forever ago.
And then how long have you had your own business?
I've had my own business I've been in this location for almost 3 years. Yeah. And prior to that, I was in a different location for 6.
So 9 years altogether.
9 years, but then I was an independent contractor for 6 years before that.
Okay. And what was it that eventually you said, I'm going to go from being an independent contractor working in somebody else's place to now it's time for me to have my own place?
I think when I moved from the big, more corporate salon, commission-based salon, to a chair rental, the owner of that salon actually, when we were setting everything up, he asked me one day, when are you going to open your own business? Because I think he just recognized like potential, I guess, and just even the way I asked questions. And I think that was the hardest part about being in more of that independent open salon, is that everyone was kind of on their own, and there wasn't that full-on team atmosphere or the goals, and everyone there they had been in the business for a long time and were kind of where they needed to be, mm-hmm. where they wanted to be, which was fine for them, but I was starting to get bored. And I think from my whole journey through hair, I moved up because I always wanted more. Yeah. And just didn't want to stop in that one spot.
And what was there? Do you remember a moment that you were like, I have to go and do this because of this? Or was there like a certain
there was no marketing in the salon at all. And I remember when social media was first starting to come out, and Facebook, and I was like, hey, could we have a Facebook page? Mm-hmm. And because everyone was on their own, there wasn't just that collaborative Facebook page or even need for marketing. Yeah. But I was the youngest one there, and ultimately they asked me to leave because I think I was the youngest one there.
You were rocking the boat a little bit too much? Or?
No, I think it was, honestly, I'm not even sure. I think it was they wanted somebody else in. I was the easiest one to...
You were the last one in.
I think they knew I wasn't happy. Yeah. I think they knew I wanted more, honestly. Yeah. And, it was the worst and best thing to ever happen to me. And when I left there, I remember saying that I was more scared to go into another salon with other people than I was to open my own space. Okay.
And if they didn't let you go, do you think you would have opened your own business?
I think I would have moved on and done something more. I was stuck there at the moment just because of other life things that had gotten in the way, and it just wasn't a good time to make that move. But it was certainly in the back of my head. And just because I always got in that place of wanting more.
Do you feel like you would have always had, because you said you had life things that were stopping you to do that, do you think if they didn't let you go, you might always have had life things that would have popped up to stop you?
Not necessarily. The biggest thing was my husband got laid off. Okay. So, and we had just gotten married. Yeah. And so it wasn't, like, financially, it just wasn't a place to go into that next step. Mm-hmm. But, knowing myself, I wouldn't have stayed. Yeah. I would have stayed for a little bit, but probably not much longer. Okay.
And so the way you saw a better way for things to be done?
I think so. I think I was just looking for that collaborative team. Yeah. And also to be able to really have purpose and a culture and a mission. And when I left there and I was able to go on my own and decide where I wanted to go with that, that's when I'd gotten more into natural, organic things just in my own eating. I had been gluten-free, and so therefore I was starting to read labels all the time. And the beauty industry is changing a lot for the better, and it can continue. But there's a lot of things that the beauty industry doesn't do right. And so for me, it was a matter of finding like really good, sustainable products, trying to use the less chemicals as possible, still maintain the beautiful color, get rid of the smells that you typically would go in normal salons.
As a business owner, when, say for example, you just looked at profit and income and loss, to do something like that, to step outside of that, seems like it's not a great business decision monetarily wise, right? It's
not necessarily, because a lot of those things cost more money.
And so for you to go and say, I'm going to do it myself, and then on top of that, I want to do it this way, that's a big leap, where you could have just been like, I'm going to do it the cheapest way or the fastest way.
Sure, I mean, like I was able to, in my first salon, it was just me.
Yeah.
It was a 450 square foot space, but I was able to source the products and then grow off of that as well, just with the change and knowing that there were better things. Not necessarily better, but there's other ways of doing it. And I was, after a while from working for myself, like I said, I always wanted more.
Yeah.
I was withdrawn from the industry because I was by myself.
Yeah.
But then I came on with a new product line, and I got to get in with education. I think that got me really further into the industry and seeing what else is out there.
So even though you were on your own, because you were saying you were looking for that team, you managed to find a team. Even though you were on your own, you had the team that you were working with products-wise, and you had a team that you were working with educationally too. So you were able to not just like go into somebody else's team. You created, but you're still working for your own self, and it was just you in that location.
Yes.
So then now you've moved to a bigger location here. You've been here 2 years. Is your goal now to create another team on top of that? Like how would you say your dream from when you first started to where it is now, has it changed, or has it always been that you wanted something like what you've got now?
I think it's grown where I want. I mean, it's starting to grow where I want it to go. I've never wanted. I always liked the fact that the clients can come in and be relaxed, be themselves. If they want to come in their yoga pants and sweaty, they can. Like I'm not judging them.
Yeah.
If I see them out in the neighborhood, I'm not like, I don't expect their hair to be perfect. And the idea is that I was able to create something that was just like a neighborhood community spot, and that we could come in, be together.
Was that the goal when you first started then?
Yes. Like my thought was like, moms could come in and like hang out on the couch and chill and have a glass of wine if they wanted to, just while I'm cutting hair.
Yeah.
And it's, in this industry, there's a lot there's people who want the job, and there's people who want to come in because of the culture and because of what we're doing. And those are the people I want in here. I want people that, care about the environment. Like we're a Green Circle salon, so we're doing a lot of recycling from hair to color waste to foils.
Yeah.
And so a lot less waste. We're using products that are sustainably sourced. And I think a lot of people's lives are moving in that direction. Yeah. So from client-wise to even stylist-wise, I think.
So would you say that you have like an industry that's aimed at, there's like a value section of people, and then there's maybe like a more super stylish, like has to be a certain fashion brand level, and then where do you say you want to be in that? You want to be the community?
Well, I think we still are, like with the product lines I use, we're still fashion forward on trend, but I think it's more of like still rocking the hair, but then being able to be yourself.
But caring about
the products, caring about, the bigger picture, because, we're doing this recycling and we're trying to source all these things, but every time you walk into a salon, you're making a difference when we're doing these things.
So your mission is you want people to look their best, but care about how they got there.
Exactly.
Care about the process of it and the journey, and actually connect with people along the way, not just, this is it, you're going to look great, doesn't matter what happens to the environment, doesn't matter what the environment's like in here, this is a family place where...
Yeah, I mean, I want to build. I have clients that I've been doing their hair since I moved to Atlanta in 2001.
Yeah.
And they followed me to the places, and they've followed me because we've created relationships. To me, it's not just about cutting hair. It's I truly get to know my clients and get to know because that in their lifestyle makes a difference in how their hair looks as well.
So for me, I started a basketball academy. Was my first business, and I didn't really understand business very well. I was young and stupid. I wanted to just help people. Mm-hmm. That was the goal, and I didn't realize in order to do that, I had to create a business first, and then I can help. I didn't have anything to give, so I wanted to help, but there was nothing to give. Mm-hmm. So, how would you say? If I didn't do that, if I didn't go through that process and that business not be successful, I don't think the next business would have been as successful as it was. So for me, and in everything I've done, failure has been the thing that has made me better every time. Mm-hmm. Do you relate to that all in your
journey? Totally. I mean, I feel like I've failed a million times within this because I've truly learned on my own as I've gone, but with the help of outside people like you, and just you find those people that you can go to ask certain questions. And
what's the biggest?
The internet. I mean, I think
stick out.
I mean, being kicked out of a salon, but at the same time, that turned into something great.
Turned into the best thing that could
I ended
happen.
up here because my last place got mowed down to build some apartments.
Right.
But now I work and live in the same neighborhood and it's awesome. I can walk to work if I want to. I feel like I failed as a leader and trying to have other employees, but I've learned from that as well. And I think I worked for myself for 6 years.
Yeah.
That was one part of the business. Now I'm growing the business with other stylists, and that's a whole nother side of things that I'm continuing to learn as far as like how to be the best leader. And ultimately that's my goal I want us to be one to the fact that our clients can come in, they know every stylist that's in here, like every stylist knows every client that walks in by name.
And so when you look back on this, why did you even start cutting hair in the first place?
I wanted to be an occupational therapist coming out of high school, and I went to college for a year. I quickly learned that I was not a straight A student, and to go into OT, it was very competitive, and you needed that 4.0. I'm a very stressful person, and it just scared me, and I didn't think I could make it to that next step. But I was working with a girl who did my hair for 5 years and helping her kind of run her business as well. So kind of learned, and at some point we talked about going to hair school, and I was scared to tell my parents because I knew that they wanted that college career life for me. So I wrote them a letter. Okay. I told them I didn't want to go back to college. I wanted to do hair school, and it was hard because I felt like I had something to prove to them. Yeah. And it was a struggle. I definitely struggled with depression and things throughout school.
What was the underlying cause of that, do you think?
Friends dying.
Okay.
And just the stress of, I felt like that need to prove that point to my parents, but at the same time going through those hard times. So it was hard for them to see me not be as successful in the beginning, but at the same time it was still school. Mm-hmm. It was still a struggle to get up, even though I loved going there, and I was driving an hour each way to go to school. But ultimately it was, I've obviously shown my family that this is what I love to do. And
what do you think their main concerns were, and what were yours going into that?
I mean, I think a lot of, 20 years ago it was, you need to go to college in order to be successful. Yeah. And I think now it's changing a bit, and they didn't finish college. I think it was just their dream for their kids to go to college, and I don't think I probably would have changed things a little bit, but ultimately I finished school. Took 6 months longer than I wanted to, but I finished, and then. How
did you feel about going to hair school? How was that for you, like when you first started? Was that?
It was good. I was introduced more into the city. I grew up in Rome, Georgia, so like being small town, and I think that's where it's like I worked in Rome for a year and a half, and then after school, because during school I was exposed to more just population diversity, and I think that was like ultimately what I loved about it, going to school in Marietta and then starting to come into Atlanta more, and I wanted that diversity around me, and I think it made the big picture a little bit easier to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with the girl who I worked with during hair school, who'd done my hair for 5 years for 6 months. And I mean, she was gracious and gave me a place to work. We were not best friends, but we were good friends. But ultimately, she had 3 kids, and she could not help with that continuing education. And I always wanted more education. With school, you learn the basics, and then everything else is behind the chair.
Yeah.
And I moved across the street, pretty much.
Wow.
And assisted a reputable stylist in town for a year, but then ultimately I wanted to go to move to Atlanta just because there were more opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved here, trying to find a job, I had a roommate. I was planning on moving here, but I had to find a job first.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent out 1 million resumes, and then one day I walked into this place. It was a Monday, so they were open retail but not doing hair. I filled out a resume. It just happened to be the perfect timing. And so I got the job, and I worked my butt off. And if anything, it was like, I wouldn't regret working there, but I worked hard for little, but gained so much. And the education I got from being around the work ethic that I was made to go into, because there was no,
You got to really see how to work hard.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much thrown onto the floor with clients right away,
mm-hmm.
with only 1.5 years of practice. So it was, it was a good lesson, and I was just cutting then, and, but there were times I felt like I was on an assembly line. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't eat all day,
and that for what you've created now is completely
I mean, there's still some days I don't eat all day, but, but at the same time, it's like, but I'm enjoying it more.
Yeah. And it's, you're not eating because you got to work on your business, or but it's yours.
Yes.
And it's not just another client comes in and you're working for somebody
mm-hmm.
else's.
And the nice thing is, I can schedule people accordingly how I want, because some people are going to take longer, some people less, and I don't like to rush.
From the moment you started to now, 20 years, what would you say is the lesson that you've learned the most from that time, from a whole 20 years of cutting hair and from 9 years being in business? What would you say is
never stop learning?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel
just
like
it's
continuous growth, whether it's the business side of things or if it's the hair side of things. So I'm still educating, and I'm still, if anything, now I'm doing more education than I've ever had, because the business is growing so much. Mm-hmm. The industry is growing so much, and there's so many different ways you can grow within the industry. And, I like where I'm at, but I also love to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
And so
I see a lot of people that have ideas to go and start their own businesses, or they have ideas to go and do something, but they find any reason not to do it, or they find any excuse not to go into that thing, because they'll find any reason, but they've just got all these ideas and they want to tell you their ideas. How do you think, what obstacles have you faced and you've just been like, I'm doing it anyway, or like,
I think
one's gonna...
I think the biggest is, probably financial.
Mm-hmm.
When I had to move locations, I doubled my space, and I also went to a raw space, and I had to build out completely on my own.
How did you have the confidence to go and do that?
I don't know if I did, but I made it happen. I think it was just like, I knew that when I found this building and that it was available, and they were willing to take me in as a salon, I think I just was like, this is what I'm doing. And the hardest part was knowing, like, can I afford it? And, luckily I had good credit, and I was able to get a loan, which I'll be paying on for a couple more years. And, but I've worked hard on my own to do that on my own. Mm-hmm. And with support of family and friends. But in terms of like financially, I've done it on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that can scare people. You have to be able to get out of your comfort zone sometimes. But I also had a lot of help. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the guidance of people and support from people. And I've certainly haven't done everything. Everything kind of went wrong and multiple times. But ultimately, I think it always comes back.
What do you think it is that causes that? Because I mean, I've known you for coming up on 2 years now, probably a little bit longer, and I've seen you work hard every day. I've seen you just be fearless in the face of anything that's thrown at you. So how do you think you just keep going even when, like you said, sometimes everything goes wrong, or sometimes you're going to face so many different challenges with opening your own space, or even from the start, what do you think it is that just keeps pushing you forward?
I mean, as much anxiety as I have, I think I still know that I have a business to run, and I have people that want to come here, and I think, I have a child, and she looks up to me, and she knows that I have this place, and it's hard in finding that work-life balance and figuring out when I have time to do everything, but ultimately I know that this was a goal that I wanted to have, and my goal is to grow, but I don't want to grow too big. I like being small and knowing everyone and being able to like feel relaxed in my space, and have other people feel relaxed in the space.
Yeah. So what would you say the biggest lesson is from going and opening your own? Work hard, know the business. If I could go back, I probably would have gone to school for business. Okay. Just because I think that would have just been a whole nother aspect of this in terms of running my own business. Like I said, I still continue to learn. You started because you loved cutting hair, right? I started because I loved cutting hair, but I think I've always, because I've worked in like the larger salon and then I've moved, I've seen how things are run. Yeah. And not that anyone did anything wrong. I think I just really enjoyed seeing the different aspects of businesses and then how I would want to do it as well. Yeah. What do you think could have stopped you that you just never let stop? Where along the way do you think you could have been you could have gone back to? I could have stopped with my parents making me go to college, or I could have stopped with not taking the leap and moving to Atlanta and expanding that, and versus staying back in my hometown. I could have, I finally was able to step out of that first salon and be fearless and excited, go and rent that chair. But, I sat on my butt for many days. I walked around in circles just waiting for people to come. It didn't come easy. I worked hard for it. And, other than the first job I got that was completely on my own, with not knowing anyone, was that first job I got here in Atlanta. And I think that in itself proved that I could move forward. When they told me that my old place was going to be torn down, I think I could have stopped and gone into work somewhere else as well, and just said, forget the business. I can just go and rent a chair somewhere and continue that way. But I knew I would be bored. Mm-hmm. As crazy as I get when I'm too busy, if I'm not busy enough, I feel like I'm always searching for something else. And has there been times when you could have just given it all up, do you think? Have you been close? Yeah, sure. What are the times that? Probably when I had to do the whole build out and dealing with the construction and everything. Yeah. It's like, you're thinking, what have I done? Mm-hmm. I could have. Well, it seems like you've built the business. You've had to rebuild 2 or 3 times. Right? Yes. It's not just being like a straight line process. It's been like, you're here for a while, we're building your own client base. Mm-hmm. And then you move to somewhere else, and now you've got your own location. And then you moved here, and you've got a bigger location. A new 10-mile away location. Yeah. Which, that was the fear in the beginning of moving from Buckhead to Grant Park was, will people follow me? And the cool thing is I got people back that didn't follow me to Buckhead. Mm-hmm. But once I was back here in the neighborhood, then they came back to me. So,
I guess the idea is, we're, as long as you're still doing it, they'll come.
Yeah, because it would have been easy to just stop there, right? It would have been easy to just say, well, none of my clients are going to come. So I've worked all those years to
Well, and I had the fear too of like, should I stay in Buckhead? And I looked, but like, that was never really my place. It just happened to be where I landed when I moved before. And now, I've been in the neighborhood for 14 years living here, but in the last 3 years, I've truly gotten to know my neighborhood.
Right.
And which is cool.
Yeah.
And I love
So now
everything.
you live and work here.
Live and work here. Kid goes to school here.
Yeah.
Go to the gym here.
Yeah.
I just need a golf cart and I'll be good.
Oh God, please no. Yeah. But yeah, so where you are now and where you've come to now, do you feel like you're still building the dream, or do you feel like you're in it now? Like, how does it feel every day when you get to come to work?
I'm definitely still building. I think I'll always be building.
Yeah.
And in this industry, you're going to train people and they're going to leave. And then, it's going to be a constant kind of, you don't want it to be a turnover, but in this industry, it's how it is. So, I'm still learning, as I said, to be a leader and to figure out how I can do things better.
So is leadership your next thing now? Is that
so.
what is that been over the last 3 years, or is that just starting to happen now, would you say? Because you were on your own in your own building. So you just, everything that's in your mind is what you do every day.
Yeah, and that's
right?
where I thought, like, I've run a business for 6 years. Surely I can expand, but, like, it's not the same. And I've certainly learned so much more in that way.
What's the biggest challenge of being a leader, would you say?
I definitely think, I'm still trying to figure out how to make sure that I'm able to get clients in to, when you're bringing somebody in to work, that, you're confident in what you're doing. And I think confidence is where I'm still building in that leadership and making sure that, I know I'm not perfect, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm able to get them where they need to be as well, and really work with their strengths and weaknesses. And, we're in it together. It's not just me. So I like the feedback. And if they're not growing, I'm not growing.
Right.
So my goal is to get, more stylists. And
so how do you get that confidence, do you think? Why do you not think you have that confidence to lead after 20 years in the industry and 9 years of owning your own business? How do you think?
I think my mind still goes back to the failures. And it's
Which
hard.
failures the most, would you say? Like,
I think it's, just, there's, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and there's times where it's like trying to take the emotion out of the business, which is hard to do because I'm just an emotional person. And everything, I do take everything personally. Yeah. But not necessarily in a bad way. It's like I want feedback, and I want people to talk.
Where does that emotion come from? Because you feel like that's what helped build your business, was that emotion of wanting to create something. Like, I imagine it's hard to then let someone else take your business, right? Or let someone else come in. So how do you?
Being able to let go, and I don't want to be a micromanager, and I don't feel like I am. Yeah. But it is, because I have created this, I think that's why it's so important for somebody to come in because of the culture. Yeah. And not just to come in to cut hair. Yeah. Because it's the whole thing combined. Because
that's what you've worked over the last 9 years to create, was this
to create that brand, to create the culture, for us as well as the clients that are coming in. Yeah. And so you're more emotional about protecting the culture than your business. Is that what would you say? I think so. That's me. Oh. I think so. I think it's.
Oh,
You can edit this part out. Of course. You can answer it. It's probably just Comcast calling to tell me they're.
We're at 30 minutes right now.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
We've gone
so
over.
Wrap it up.
Okay.
So you've been doing this for 20 years, like we said, 9 years owning your own business. When you come to a point in time where you don't want to cut hair anymore, or maybe you think about selling or the business at that point, what do you want? Because, this business is named after you, right? It's Laura Goddard Style. what do you want that to represent? What do you want that to mean?
I mean, initially is Laura Goddard style, but as you coming in to find your style. Like a haircut can change anyone's style and make them happy and
that's your business. But I mean, what do you want your name to represent? When people hear Laura Goddard style, what do you want that to mean to them? What do you want them to think of when they think of you as a business owner, you as a mom, you as a whatever else? What would you include in that, and how would you want people to think about you? Say years from now, when maybe Laura Goddard style doesn't exist anymore, or maybe it does. I don't know. What do you want the legacy to look like?
I mean, I guess especially when I go back to the clients I've seen for years. So obviously the relationship building and the culture that I've built, and I have clients that text me randomly to say, hey, I'm thinking about you, or if I get it honestly makes my day when I get a text saying I love my hair, or tag on Instagram. But ultimately coming back and knowing that I've done the best I can to
the relationships
I think is the biggest thing. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good legacy.
No, if that's what you want it to mean, that's great.
I don't know what my legacy is. That's where I haven't gotten deep enough in my goals.
Right. Well, what is it that drives you every day now? Because I mean, like when you were starting off, it was like, I don't want to go to university. But what is it now that's like every day? This is what pushes.
I mean, I love walking in and seeing what I've created, and knowing that clients come in here for what I've created, and not just the hair.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, like somebody asked me if I was going to step out from behind the chair just to run the business, and that is not where I want to be yet.
Right.
One day, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a very physical job, and one day, yes, it'd be great to like step away a little bit, but ultimately, I think it's great to be a part of it, because people do come here because my name is on the door. But at the same time, I want people to come here for everything that we represent.
Yeah. Well, I just want to, from knowing you for 2 years, just want to acknowledge that, like I said before, the person that I know and the person that I see every day is somebody that I've never heard you make an excuse for anything. I've seen you take responsibility. I've seen you take ownership. And if you, for example, with the gym, if you don't come, it's because you didn't come. There's nothing, you don't put it on anybody else. If this business is doing well, you put it on you. You say, I need to do this better, or I need to do that better. And I've never heard you make an excuse for anything. And just watching you just show up every day, and whatever we're doing, say for example in the gym, you just go and do it. There's no, I'm not sure if I can do that. You just attack it. And I think that's how you've got to grow such a great business now.
If I stop working, then the business goes away.
Yeah.
And I've certainly had times where I don't focus on the business enough, and that's where I see everything fluctuate a little bit. And then I come back to it and go back to those goals and figure out how to.
If someone was starting right now, 20 years, if it was, you could talk to yourself 20 years ago, what would be the one thing you would tell the person to be ready for?
Be ready to work.
Yeah.
Be ready for the physical aspect of the job, the emotional aspect of the job. We're very personal with our clients, and so as much of a psychologist as we are cutting hair, and you get to know families and you get to know everything about them, and it's probably one of the most intimate jobs you can have. And you have to make people feel comfortable, and with that they come back.
I was going to ask that, because people tend to dump everything onto their hairdressers. Like you sit down in the chair and it's like,
oh yeah, that's what I say. I've cried with my clients, from my part, from their part.
Yeah.
And I strive to make everyone happy, and if I don't make everyone happy, it's very hard on me too. So it's that constant struggle of trying to do everything right. Yeah. Which is not going to happen every day.
No. So where do you see this business in the next 10 years?
The next 10 years, I would love to have a few more stylists, grow the hours. I would love to be a little bit more like one step ahead in the education, like teaching, but not just teaching for the company, but also more of an education plan within the salon too, and growing other stylists.
And have that team environment that you were looking for.
Yeah.
How many stylists do you think you'll?
I mean, I have 3 chairs, so I think I could, depending on hours, you could stagger. But I mean, ultimately I don't want it huge. I still want it to be nice and quaint. And
everybody pushing that mission of community, sustainability, and then caring about making a difference in the right way.
Exactly.
So, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And
So the
cut.